Hey everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a topic that I've been thinking about for a while, and I call it the diversification of the empire. So, when you watch the original trilogy, like all of the higher ranking imperial officers were always depicted as white British dudes. But during like the Disney era, I feel is when the empire sort of started getting diversified. And what I mean by that is it wasn't just like white British dudes anymore. It's like Asian women and black women, um, and like just like American men. Like there was that one guy in the Mandalorian who was like an imperial officer, but he was just like he had a southern accent for some reason. So that's always been weird to me, in a sense. Like all of the stormtroopers seem to be just like regular guys with like American accents, but like again, like in the original trilogy, they were always like British dudes. And so with um, the Disney canon, they've diversified the empire. Now, on one level, I like this, and on another level, I don't like this. So the reason I like it is because I understand why they made that change. Because basically, what they're saying is, it doesn't matter like uh, what color what color you are, what sex you are, what gender you are. You can always be in support of authoritarianism and support of fascism. It doesn't matter what you look like, right? So on that level, I understand why the change was made, because and also like from an in-universe perspective, it also kind of makes sense because the empire would have like multiple worlds under its control, and they would start recruiting from these worlds into their own military. So it makes sense why you would see like a black guy in the as like an imperial officer, or like an Asian woman as like an imperial officer, because they'd be just recruiting from whatever world they can, like whatever worlds are under their control, they would just recruit from. So on that level, I understand why they made that change. Now on the other level, I don't like this change, and let me explain why. While it's true that it doesn't really matter who you are, you can still support fascism and authoritarianism. I feel as though the empire, like higher up imperial officers being like British dudes, was kind of like a statement that they're not as diverse as like the rebels, right? Because when you look at the rebels in the original trilogy, they had white people, black people, Asian people, and all of the other alien races. So it was kind of making a statement that the empire is kind of uniform. There's no real diversity in it, and it's kind of like this sterilized government that is taking over and taking away people's rights, whereas the rebels represented like the diversity and like the freedom of the galaxy, or the diversity and the freedom that the galaxy wanted to have. So them being like white British dudes was always like a conscious decision in my mind. And then of course, the stormtroopers are just, it doesn't really matter what the stormtroopers are, I guess, because they all, wear the same armor. So they don't really have any individuality. They always have, they're basically just cogs in the machine, right? So I feel as though the empire, like I would prefer it, I guess, if the empire was still just like white British dudes, because that would just highlight how like diverse and how like rebel how like against like authority the rebels actually are. So I'd actually prefer it. I would prefer it, I guess, if the empire was just like British people, and then you got to show how the rebels can come together from all of these different groups and form something that's worth fighting for. So those have been my thoughts on that.